All right. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I think we're all still in minister mode. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us here. My name is Shobi Lawalata, and I am the Executive Director of Tsinghua Southeast Asia Center. And I think we have heard the high level remarks from our minister and deputy minister. I think the bottom line is clear. Yes, AI is here. It's not going anywhere. It's going to change everything. It is a great equalizer, and it's a tool for inclusion. And that Indonesia wants to be not only a market but a shaper of AI and AI ecosystem going forward. So I think the question and the task for this panel is to answer the question of how we are going to do that. So with that, allow me to call up and introduce to the stage our esteemed panelists. The first is we have Mr. Amit Gupta, who was the chairman of Thai Global. Amit is a technology entrepreneur, an innovation strategist, ecosystem builder, and he built one of the world's largest entrepreneurship networks. So it's a pleasure and honor to have you here, Amit. We are also joined today by Dr. Peter Finn, also a technology entrepreneur, and Peter taught in the HDX course, so our graduates will be familiar with Peter. Peter is an applied AI researcher. I think he earlier called himself a pracademic. Is that pracademic? So combining practice and academia, and his work focuses on deploying AI cleanly, privately, and at the edge. He is a co-founder of Synectify and creator of InferNode. Now, have you say a little bit more about that in a bit. And of course, we are also honored today to be joined by Bapak Donald Tirta Atmaja, Head of Technology at AWS Indonesia, perhaps one of the most important companies in the world in today's AI ecosystem. Pak Donald leads technology strategy and engagement for Amazon Web Services in Indonesia. And in this role, Pak Donald works with enterprises, startups, and government bodies to accelerate cloud adoption, AI integration, and digital infrastructure development. So we have a complete suite of people to answer very, very interesting questions today. So allow me to join you here at the panel. So our panelists, let's start with a round of introduction. Maybe you can take each 5 minutes to say a little bit about you, your work with AI, and to throw something fun in there. What's one question about AI that you wrestle with that's front and center in your mind right now? So maybe we can start with Amit.
Well, a very good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me here, and it's been a pleasure just observing the kind of progress that is being made through cohorts like the HDX cohort. And thank you to the UID team and the Tsinghua Southeast Asia campus for having us here. And congratulations to all the graduates of the program. My name is Amit Gupta, and I'm an entrepreneur. Very deeply passionate about it. I believe entrepreneurship brings solutions that solve some of our biggest challenges. And so I think it's great to see that we have such great entrepreneur energy in the room. Outside of that, I also do investing, and one of my companies, ecosystem, is a technology research and analyst firm, and we advise the world's largest technology companies on market trends and how their business will shape and their markets will shape, and then we advise enterprises and governments on where they should invest in terms of technology adoption that will benefit their organizations. So it's a really interesting time. In the sense that over the last 2 years, I don't think there's any conversation in the technology world, and we'll probably hear from Peter and Donald as well, that happens without AI. Now, there is every company wants to be an AI company. Every company wants to be an AI first company or an AI forward company. And it means different things to different people. But one thing is for sure, that AI is here to stay. And our view is that the impact of AI can only be felt when it takes the whole of ecosystem approach, which means, when governments enable frameworks or provide frameworks that enable the AI innovation, when digital natives build those innovative technologies, when investors and capital providers put the capital behind innovations that will shape the world in the next 5 to 10 years. And of course, it's incomplete without enterprises that participate and enterprise tech providers like AWS that bring that whole motion together. But none of this is complete unless we have the right policy frameworks. And one of the statements that I have been making is, AI innovation today is moving much faster than the speed of trust. So, and I think it comes down to trust. And I think unless the government is really putting the impetus behind it, it's not possible to achieve that. And then it leads to a number of different considerations, I think, from an AI perspective. Once you have trust, which is, I'm so glad when I was listening to Paulo Hoot when he was speaking and the team, and I've been following their work for NIAI over the last year. And it's amazing to see how small teams today can make such great progress when there is intent and trust behind it. I think starting from there, the opportunity is how do you make sure that this becomes an inclusive play? Because I think so. I'll end with maybe a question and a thought. So my one thought is, for Indonesia, I don't think Indonesia will, or any economy, and I think Indonesia is one of the world's largest countries. There's such great youth digital talent available. I think the opportunity is for Indonesia is not just to build the best models or the best AI infrastructure. I think it's to ensure that AI is inclusively adopted across every sector, SMEs, every size of organization, and every person is able to harness the value of AI for themselves and for the greater good of Indonesia. So I think one thought and question that I have always is, how do we ensure that all of this talk that's happening in the enterprise world, because eventually most of the spend is happening in the enterprise world, how do we ensure that AI adoption is truly inclusive and it's, it isn't just about putting bold statements out there. And I think the enterprise tech has the opportunity to support that. And if they can channel that, and Donald is here, and organizations like AWS, if they can channel that mission, I think that will complete the last mile to include that to achieve that inclusive AI adoption.
Perfect. We'll go a little bit in more detail in that direction when we go around. Thank you so much, Amit. Peter?
Okay, yeah, thank you so much for the introduction, and it's honored to be here. Just a little bit of background on myself and my engagement with AI. I've been basically a serial entrepreneur going back to, gosh, the late 90s. I'm older than I look, perhaps, and I've also kind of from the beginning been involved in distributed computing. That's kind of been my focus. Just basically every startup that I've done is kind of in some way intersected with that. And one thing that has kind of continuously driven me through everything that I've done is just a constant realization of the incredible surplus of, say, computing capacity that we have, or energy capacity, generation capacity that we have that is underutilized. And that's driven a lot of what I have done in the computing space. That's kind of what has been the foundation for Synectify, which is trying to bridge precisely that gap of matching available computing capacity with available surplus renewable energy to try to achieve just a higher level of optimization in terms of how we're using computing and then how we're using energy more sustainably. Of course, AI plays into that tremendously. And from a level beyond just the performance of, how efficiently and greenly, we're going to be able to conduct inferencing. It also goes into questions about data sovereignty and, how we are able to keep control over all of this valuable data, of course, that we have, while at the same time leveraging the benefits of AI, right? So a lot of my current interest is also in using, again, these distributed computing models, how it is that we can better utilize desktop computing resources to do, inferencing on our own computers, or even, on premises computing power and things like that. So, and I'm sure, AWS can speak to the hyperscaler side of things. So I'll pass the mic in a moment. But in terms of some of the questions that I grapple with, oh gosh. I'm always being accused of being, 4 standard deviations outside the norm. So, yeah, kind of, the questions that occur to me tend to be kind of frontier, and being an academic doesn't help. But again, in kind of this distributed line of thought, I'm thinking a lot more about the interactions, the social interactions of distributed AI agents, and how they will start to behave as they start to interact with each other, and also how they will interface with human beings in a teaming capacity, who are using them, and how that just might play out. It's a complex system, so we can't really know, but how to anticipate the risks and try to stay ahead of that, whatever's coming. So yeah. Happy to elaborate on that and more. Yeah.
Thank you, Peter. Pak Donald? Switch to the right. Yeah, there we go.
Hi, my name is Donald. I am the head of technology for AWS Indonesia. Right, I think I'm really glad for the opportunity to speak here today. All right, so I think when we talk about AI, I think Amit talked a little bit about inclusion of AI and so on. I think what is really interesting right now is that we are at the point where, we see AI is more widely adopted, right? I think a couple of years ago, only those largest enterprises can afford, not even implementing it, just, kind of experimenting with AI, right? But today, right, almost everybody can get access to it, right? And AWS is a cloud service provider. And one of the biggest thing that I think I take pride that we are doing is that we are bringing AI to the masses, right? For just barely about $100, right? You can already have access to AI infrastructure now, right? Running your own GPU, running your own model, right? And maybe even if you're not that technical, right, you can actually use the model without having to do a complex AI engineering, right? We just talked about it during the lunchtime, right? How probably the first job that go away is the AI engineer. Why? Because now an AI can create another AI system, right? So we talk about it a little bit that, I think the people who will really benefit are the people who are in the industry, not so much the engineer itself, right? And I think we come to a point now that's very interesting. I'm already seeing in the market. I also work with a lot of startups. I'm seeing a lot of startups that's providing digital services to their customer, right? And like when we look at startup 10 years ago, it's all the founders are basically technology people, right? It's very techie people, developers, right? Hardcore engineer. The last probably 1 year, I'm starting to see where the founder is a truly business person, right? We've seen a startup, it's a legal startup. They're providing digital legal services, helping the small, medium enterprises, basically getting their contract drafted properly, vetting contract and so on for a very low cost. The founder is a lawyer, right? And the whole team is lawyer. No single developer inside there. So I think we are at that inflection point here, right? Where really business can really thrive using AI, and it will create new businesses. It will create a new type of small, medium enterprises, right? I think one of the challenges, I think we would like to see how it will actually be solved in the next couple of years is that we should probably go even further, right? Right now, as much as we say, it's no longer for the few people, but I think the group of people who can use it is still very small, right? Looking at Indonesia, 300 million, I think less than 10% can really use it. The question is, what about the rest, right? We don't want to leave anybody behind, right? We want the whole country to actually, be able to benefit from AI. So I think that will be the big question, and I think we still need to figure out over the next couple of years around this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pak Donald. And I hope the development again isn't faster than the speed of our ability to catch up with it. So I think your comment just looped directly back to what Amit said in the beginning, right, about inclusivity. And it's, I think, a question that's particularly important in Indonesia. I think the deputy minister earlier today said how MSMEs are the backbone of the Indonesian economy. And I think if we double click on that, you will see that a significant percentage of that are street vendors, right? They're farmers and fishers. And so who gets to have access and who doesn't get to have access, I think will make a big difference in our inclusivity outcomes. In terms of the one-man enterprises now that's being created, but also at the same time, it's the same technology being adopted by larger companies that used to rely on these, supply chain of smaller SMEs to support their operation. So it's really shaping the whole ecosystem. So how do you see that playing out? How do we ensure inclusivity through all of that? I mean, I've never seen a piece of technology that excites as well as creates anxiety in people as much as AI, right? Before. So please,
No, look, I think that's one that I think really needs to be solved, but I can share some thoughts around it. I think first of all, the interesting thing about AI is that it is a complete leveler, right? One of my very good friends who runs a very large bank, he said 70% of his C-suite leadership team were not using technology for anything beyond email. And today, they are one of the most highly paid business leaders in the market, and yet they're at a disadvantage because they don't actually know how to use AI at all. And they're desperately trying to learn so that they can stay relevant. They know that that's not going to be the case if they don't. So the good thing is that adoption gap is very consistent. Now, the other piece with AI that I'm seeing is, if we take it in the context of Indonesia, for example, let's look at farmers, the agri economy. It's a big part of Indonesia's grassroots economy. Today, AI with speech-based communication can actually solve for that lack of digital adoption because they all have mobile phones. If they're, it's a matter of getting that in their hands in a way that they can actually use. And there are so many things that can be done to actually help the farmer with better yield, better supply chains, better access to markets, processing, whatever it is, where AI can actually play that role. And unlike in the past, where there was a lot of talk about agri-tech 5 years ago as well. So first of all, I want to make a caveat that AI is not new. AI has been around for a long time. Gen AI is new. Gen AI consumerized AI. Gen AI made AI come in the palms of everyone in this room and around the world. But AI has always been there. But the problem is, in the past, when you had data and you were trying to help farmers with agri-tech, they needed to deal with the complexity of actually having to read reports, what they should be doing. Now, AI can actually do it for them. So, once you start to augment AI with those farmers, I think the potential is immense. And I just want to close on the one-man enterprise, since you mentioned that. I was just blown away. We were just talking about it downstairs at lunch with Paluhut as well, that, in the Council General has left now, but in China, I've been talking to founders there. The government, because they're recognizing jobs are being lost, they're actually trying to help individuals create one-man businesses with AI. Now, they're not trying to build one-man unicorns, so don't get me wrong. They're trying to build one-man SMEs. So basically, the SME is defined to OME. one man enterprise, right? So, but I think that's the opportunity in Bali. You have so many digital natives that want to move here. If you give them the right environment, the right infrastructure, the opportunity is, can they use agentic to build one-man AI native companies out of Bali? So just a thought to leave you with.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
Peter,
can I
let's build on this.
add on to that? Yeah. So,
Compute
what's that?
with your distributed compute approach. I think
Yeah,
that plays
sure.
right into that.
And I'm also very much a one-man enterprise. So I can speak to that, directly. So I like to tell people that, never in the history of human civilization has there been a single technology that is as powerful and as easy to use. And, to the point of now having a computer that we can just speak to and have whatever the intent of the operator is just simply be interpreted by the AI agent, and just carried out, just executed. That alone is just going to change everything. I think we're on the cusp of a transition where, desktop operating systems that we're familiar with and all of these And so, that also means that software development, to the point about, I'm putting myself out of business. Software development is becoming cheap, right? And so it's actually much more the human aspects of, building, that critical problem of achieving product market fit. These fundamentals of entrepreneurship are the human side of it is really coming to the fore, and of what's important, and the technical side of it has been to an increasing side just solved. But anyway, thoughts on that?
I think it's really interesting, right? Because I think really AI has gone beyond the wall of the large enterprises, right? Hits a lot more of the startup and so on. But I think specifically if we talk about, in Indonesia, we talk about the street vendor, right? The farmers, right? Unfortunately, I think the gap is still there, right? I think we have to acknowledge that the gap is still there, right? So in my mind, actually, if we want to reach out further, I think there are two things that needs to be done, right? The first one is data, right? How data actually becomes available to these guys, right? This is probably where we may need help from the government, right? How some of this data can actually be collated by the government, right? And kind of democratized that can be used by the larger community out there, right? Because right now, what we're seeing, well, managing data is a lot easier. So even the startups can do it themselves, right? And I think a lot of the startups like yourself, Peter, I think will do it very well, but not those street vendor and the farmers really on the ground, right? So that's number one, I think data, because that is something that they will not be able to do it on their own. The second part, I think the solution, I think is entrepreneurship, right? Which is really the theme here, right? I think this is where I think we will need to get a lot of the people who are the more educated, the more experienced, right, in Indonesia to actually step up, right? Because I think the gap for the farmers and the street vendor to be able to really build their own AI system is really still far. But if a lot of the entrepreneur like being cultivated here can step up, right? And I think that will really bring the AI to the mass market, right? And think of it, when you think of startup, you do not think of the old days again, right? Hundreds of millions of venture capitalist funding has to flow in, a lot of engineers and so on. No, not anymore. Like what Amit say, right? It's a one-man entrepreneur, right? I believe a lot of graduates here will probably be able to, create not just one, maybe multiple actually startup, multiple entrepreneurship that actually help a lot of these guys on the ground, right? Maybe help the farmer, for example, predict weather, help the farmer predict which seed to use for this season and so on, right? And I think that will change a lot.
Which I think underlines what Peter said, and that's maybe something that doesn't get talked about enough, is that apparently AI not only, I think a lot of people feel threatened by AI, like it's threatening our humanity, but actually it feels like it's actually taking away some of the stuff, the more technical stuff, and it elevates our capacity for observation, for seeing the gap in the market, and that's actually the more human part that needs to be built on. So I think that's a line worth repeating everywhere so that we build up humanity with AI rather than relegating us to the more menial task and then without intending to only allowing access to technology to the people who are able to communicate with it by coding, right? So, okay, so that's the inclusion is one side of it. The next part I want to talk about, because Happy Digital X is also about sustainability. Of course, the compute and the resources needed to make this vision a reality, that's another consideration. So where do you see where we are right now, and what does it take to the three of you? What does it take for us to be able to safeguard, the ecological respect and integrity that we can have this technology mindfully? Anyone?
Please, no, go.
Sure. I mean, I can start that off. I mean, I think, yeah, as I said in the introduction, one of the things that has driven me, continuously is just the incredible amount of underutilized, resources, and just in terms of the energy and the compute. And if we were just leveraging that better, I think a lot of the sustainability, issues would be resolved. And there's actually a lot of the day-to-day work that we use AI models to do. We don't actually need the really powerful frontier models that are running, in data centers. Those are still, vitally important for a lot of the cutting edge, work. But for just a lot of the day-to-day inferencing and running agents and things, these can now be accomplished very competently by relatively non-resource intensive, LLMs that can run on, local computers. And so, part of that is, so, I mean, there's a training gap, too. The technology is there, but, there are people who have just never had the experience of even trying to work with an AI, conversationally, even though this has been, just a very, very common, feature of their existence for a while. And kind of the same with running AIs locally and finding out ways to, get just kind of leverage distributed resources better. I think one of the big challenges that's going to be harder to deal with is the e-waste that is coming our way. This is something that so far we don't really have a collective solution for, the kind of mass recycling of very rapidly appreciating GPUs. That's again another reason why we should try to push more of our use of AI onto infrastructure that we already have, that already works and works well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just wanted, I think Peter's touched on the impact of AI on energy consumption and what it means from a sustainability standpoint. And I think there's a lot of effort being put into that to work through that. But I think Peter's already covered that. I'll touch on the other piece, which is how can AI now, sorry, that's my phone ringing. How can AI now ensure that we can progress the use of technology in better sustainability, being more sustainable at an enterprise level, Whether it's around energy management, whether it's around waste management, water management, there are so many aspects. It could be around other climate, sort of climate initiatives. Till now, there's been a lot of use of data and outputs that come out of that to better manage that. And again, as I said, with AI, I think the ability to move from that passive reporting to actually actioning with AI, I think is going to be the big fundamental shift. And it's simple things like, you could be automating your homes, you could be automating a number of, the way you manage your mobility and things. I think a lot of that will come into play. I mean, we actually do an annual report for Microsoft. Sorry, Donald. It's a global report on use of technology for sustainability. And when I look at that, we've been doing it for 4 years, and when I look at that research, it's like what it was saying 2 years ago and what the possibilities will be 2 years later are going to be completely unrecognizable.
Okay, so there's efficiency gains, and then closing the mismatch gap between resource and the need. And then, of course, to the hyperscaler side, which everyone's scared about, like the data centers eating up their water and so on. What's your take, Pa Donald?
Right. This is exactly, I think, where cloud providers like Amazon actually help. At the bottom of it, at the infrastructure layer, there's a couple of things that we're doing, right? The number one is how we use renewable energy, right? So that's our commitment, right? So in Indonesia itself, right, Amazon data centers is already 100% using renewable energy as of last year, right? So that actually helps, right? That takes away, the questions around the power utilization and so on, right? So I think that's number one. Number two, I think let's recognize the fact those AI chips, right, it's power hungry, right? So the fact that when you start using cloud, what it means is when you are not using it, you are releasing it for somebody else to use it. So you don't actually keep a server running in your data center, burning electricity for nothing, because you can't just keep on powering off those servers, right? So technically, by using cloud, you are actually contributing to the effort of conservation as well, right? Because what you do not use, somebody else can use instead of us spinning off another server. Right? So I think that's two things that I think can really help a lot at the infrastructure layer.
All right, very cool. We have about 9 minutes left to the conversation. I want to loop it back to the SMEs. I think we have a few entrepreneurs here in the room. Paint us a picture. I think, Peter, you mentioned a little bit about a very different future. So paint us a picture of the future where AI, AI first world of entrepreneur, and how does an entrepreneur situate herself or himself to be able to end up on the right side of that story, the one that's successful and thriving versus getting displaced. Maybe we'll change it up. Have Donald start first.
Yeah. I think this is a very interesting question. So when I think of in a world where everything is AI first, what will happen to the entrepreneur, right? I think really they will be the creativity, right? They will be the creativity engine where a lot of actually the day-to-day kind of heavy lifting is done by the agentic system, all based on AI, right? So we talk a lot about collaboration and so on. I imagine, places like Bali will be where a lot of the startup founders, the entrepreneurs actually meet to actually exchange ideas, not to do real work, right? But to exchange ideas, figuring out collaboration, figuring out the next business idea, right? How they launch something together, and then the actual heavy lifting of getting the company off the ground will probably outsource to a bunch of machines.
Very cool.
Yeah, I guess to elaborate a little bit more on what I said.
I think you need your microphone so that the people.
Sorry. Yes, absolutely, I do. Yeah, so to elaborate on something I said, alluded to a little earlier about, it really starts to then go back to fundamentals. So many, because one of the bottlenecks actually used to be creating the actual product. You'd have to you need some seed investment, or you need some seed capital, or you need some time and some talent to grind out even just a demo. Now that thing can just be done in an hour or so with a snap of the fingers using like a multi-agent coordination architecture. And so, like I said, that part is kind of solved. And so now it goes back more to fundamentals, finding out what the actual human need is, the problem, the pain point that needs to be solved, discovering, who that customer is, those absolute fundamentals of achieving product market fit. These are the sorts of things that startups have always struggled with and probably will always continue to struggle with. But those are areas where AI can facilitate a lot and can help us out a lot. Internally, actually, we've got a kind of a process that we developed to analyze our conversations that we're having with customers. We call it subtext. We might spin it off as a separate product, but it basically analyzes transcripts. It looks at some of the themes that people are trying to articulate, but they're possibly not even aware of, across different conversations. So, there's a place for working in AI and AI-driven workflows into those traditional fundamentals of entrepreneurship, but really what has to lead the charge has got to be the human element there.
Right.
Still.
And the fishers and the farmers and the street vendors are definitely a good place to start to bring the inclusion level in, as we stated earlier.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
All right. Okay. I mean,
I'm going to build on a couple of things that Peter and Donald said because they were both very relevant. So I want to make sure I do justice to that. But I want to first just emphasize, when we think about AI and the AI future in the enterprise or entrepreneurship, we're not talking about everyone being an AI native founder. Because I think if everyone is building AI companies, then I think we'll have a problem too, because someone needs to grow the fruit as well, right? So I think I break it into three parts. So I just to give, and I'm just sharing this for more context around my thinking. One is, of course, the entrepreneurs that are going to build AI companies, which means they're actually building the technology. They're actually building the consumption part of AI, where others are consuming it. The second are enterprises or companies where AI is actually used and enterprise-wide to actually achieve the best business outcomes. So one is an AI native company. The other is maybe AI forward, AI first, maybe AI forward. So I think there's those two categories. So when I look at that, I think, let's look at the first set of entrepreneurs that we are seeing. I mean, Donald talked about the lawyer. I think that's a great example, because that entrepreneur who's building those AI companies is someone who brings in the business domain expertise and the ability to put structure and research behind everything that the process they're developing. So it's about the domain expertise and the workflows, not the tech anymore, because I think that is the piece that's the most disrupted today. The second set of entrepreneurs are the OMEs. Now I'm going to coin that term, so anyone who uses it, please, it's trademarked now. And we've got everyone here as written. No, I'm just kidding. But the one-man enterprise, I think, is a true reality. It doesn't mean that everyone. It's not. Let's not confuse that with one-man unicorns, because that's aspirational. This is reality. One-man enterprise, right? So how can AI help one person build business very efficiently? So that's one category of entrepreneurs. And again, great example to have that in a place like Bali, for example. The third example is the entrepreneurs that are taking their expertise and building beyond that, and bringing truly the power of technology. So let me give you an example. A very dear friend who's an entrepreneur, but also a very well-known Bollywood film star and producer as well. And most people, at least most girls, look at him and they kind of look at him as the model actor, but he is an entrepreneur. He has recognized that one of the problems in the industry, in the entertainment industry, is the ability to create, creative speech and music. And once he started to experiment there, he realized that using existing LLMs was not the solution. So guess what? He went out and built an LLM, right? So I think there is that ability now to bring those real AI native companies, and an AI native founder doesn't actually have to be a technology person at all. So I think the future of entrepreneurship, and I'm hoping that as these entrepreneurs build, they will keep in mind that purpose and profit are not exclusive. They go together. And if you focus on both, I think that's a good place to be.
Very cool. Purpose and profit. Yeah, so that's a helpful distinction on where one can start to develop in an AI forward or AI first movement or orientation. So there was an interesting conversation during lunch today around the non-aligned movement for AI. Somebody in the room could probably speak to that. Was it Sherry or was it you?
Yeah, I could talk about it. But everyone. Yes. Yes.
Maybe pitch it first, and we'll hear what the audience.
Maybe I'll set some context on how that conversation came about. So I think there were different threads that got us to that point. One thread was that, so it started with how Bali is the one place where people come in, and it's it represents peace, not just externally, but I think the more comfortable we are with ourselves, the more effective we are in our thinking, the more, I guess, considerate we are as human beings. So I think Bali brings that element. And it also creates that neutral, so Indonesia creates a neutral environment. And the opportunity today, if you really look at the AI is really in the US and China. I mean, that's where the powerhouses are. The third player, of course, in this mix is India, which has a lot of talent. So undoubtedly will pick up, even if not developing the core AI technology, actually applying it to build scale, right? So the opportunity is these three may not necessarily be in sync elsewhere, but I think Indonesia can actually bring that ability for all three to co-create here. Because if you look at Indonesia, you have all three of those enterprises. You have Amazon, you have the Alibabas, you have Huawei, you have the Indian companies, Infosys, TCS, all are here. So, and Indonesia has, I mean, I must say the opening, every time I come to Bali, especially, and I listen to the opening, and the welcome remarks always include such an inclusive element in every, the welcome is in every culture and language. So I really appreciate that. So I think Indonesia has that edge. And then we discussed that, can we bring that, can that become, and then I think the Council General mentioned that the non-aligned movement was started in Indonesia. Obviously, it was started, Indonesia was a big part, and it was today, April 18th. So we said, why don't we mark today as the day to kick off the digital non-aligned movement so that we make it inclusive.
That's super cool. Anyone feel interested, intrigued, challenged, or want to give ideas or support from the audience? Anything that's resonating? Yes, no, yes.
Oh, sure.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, if you're asking what's resonating, it's definitely Indonesia has, I've always thought that, and one of the things that's always attracted me about Indonesia is the unity and diversity, because we're at the unity and diversity campus, right? And I loved what you were saying, Mr. Amit Gupta, around how this is a playground for that unity and diversity in terms of AI as well. And where all these big players can kind of battle in like equal rights, to say so, and interesting things will come out of it. And I think I run an innovation hub, startup hub, co-working here in Sanur. And we work with interesting technologies, and AI is obviously a big one of them right now. And we're really excited to see what, to be part of this and see where this is going and how we can all help shape it. Thank you for the great event. Sure. I'm Lavinia from Livet. We are in Sanur, not far away from you, and we've actually been working with the team here for a while, collaborating on events. So we're excited about more things happening on this side of the island, right?
Thank you. Thank you. All right. And anyone from this side? Okay.
Hello, I'm Zulham. I'm under director of Sinar Teknologi Indonesia, one of software house company in Bali. And currently, I have agentic system AI for my company. And as we know that AI model, the company have their own powerful model, right? And since we don't have an open source powerful model like Cloud, that's okay. Sorry. The fact that there's a few open source model as powerful as Cloud, that's a problem right now. And the fact that the GPU hardware like NVIDIA, so the model will be compatible with NVIDIA, right? I think that's make us to get a few options to run a model. Since in current geopolitics right now, the currency is too far away, right? That's all.
Yeah. And maybe that's something a movement, a non-aligned movement can help address.
Yeah, I can speak to that. I was at the AI ethics, United Nations AI ethics forum in Bangkok last year. It was the first time it was held in Asia, actually, and it was fascinating. There was for a number of reasons, partly in terms of who wasn't there. There was really no, I mean, this is a big United Nations, event, and they're talking about, AI ethics, which is one of the most foundationally important, issues concerning AI. Although I did have someone tell me the other day that nobody cares about AI ethics and sustainability. Anyway, yeah, I was disappointed. But anyway, yeah, there was no significant representation at this event from the PRC or from the United States or from any of the big AI labs at all. And so, one of the things when I'm facilitating classes, in AI ethics, and we're talking about things like, autonomy and so forth, one of the things I always tell my students is, your autonomy is yours to lose. And if you want it, you've got to take it. And it's in your control, to do that. So anyway, yeah, I agree with you.
And maybe Padonal has something to add to that.
Okay, let me add on a little bit, right? So I think you mentioned a few problems. Number one, GPU. That's not easy to find. It's not cheap as well, right? And the second one, I think the cost of the model, right? We know Cloud is very powerful, and yet it's actually quite costly as well, right? So I think this is interestingly where, in a country like Indonesia, where we are not having to have to align ourselves in this very confusing geopolitical situation, you actually have choices, right? So, for example, AWS in Indonesia, we bring in model both from the West as well as the East, and you can actually deploy your own model. And the fact some of this thing is actually available to you as an API. So you just call it one at a time. You don't have to worry about where do I find my GPU, how do I run my GPU and all that. And I think this is really what is key for a lot of the software houses that just get started, right? And I think interestingly, if you actually follow closely enough in technical speak, in developer speak, there are now models like Kimi 2.5, which is getting closer and closer to Cloud. right? It may not be matching up yet, but it's actually close enough, right? And those are available in countries like Indonesia, not in every country because Kimi comes from China, right? It's considered the East model, but in country like Indonesia, we can bring that in. Hopefully that helps.
Options.
Yeah. Just to build on that, I think Peter was talking about distributed infrastructure earlier. If you really think about it, I think where the opportunity is for Indonesia is to build for Indonesia and solving Indonesia's own local challenges and around what people need here. But at the same time, I think there's also an opportunity to build for the region, Southeast Asia. So I think there's also perhaps an opportunity, and I don't think we have the time to discuss that in detail right now, but just a thought to leave you all with. We have the access to a distributed infrastructure across like Batam, Singapore, Johor. So Singapore, Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, how can you tap into that? How can there be, because you can have in that distributed environment, you can have the training of the models in one place. You can actually have the inferencing and where you need to keep it very close and contained, where the data has to be more sovereign. So,
And where the data does have to be separate, then we've got federated learning now.
that's right.
Okay, so the tools are available, the models are available, the distributed hardware and infrastructure is available, but we need to get together, and maybe that's where the movement can really come into contribution. We have time for maybe one more comment, Ibu Laksmi. I think we have two. Can we do two or we take one? Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Ibu Sobi. Thank you, Mr. Hamid, Mr. Peter, and Mr. Tirta. I'm Laksmi Saraswati as the head of the Social Affairs Government of Denpasar City. Yeah, I listened about the powerful of AI. And now the government of Denpasar is focused how to be a good data for the people is coming to Bali. That you say that this is Bali is the focus and Denpasar is the capital city of Bali. There are many people come around to stay in Denpasar. How to be the AI become a greener economy? Because you are said about the entrepreneurships. We focus about disability. We have the schizophrenia about the mental health to be around to the village, the home, because this is situation, not people in happy, but it's always stress and get up mental. But they have to be right to stay and to back home. So that is why we build 3 building for disability to be an entrepreneur. So how to be the AI for disability, for academic, and be greener for their life. Thank you.
So it's a question of how do we bring AI?
Because we learn and teach them for more and more. We establish 3 buildings for them and the people in poverty situations. The situation of the Bali now about the flood is a disasters. How we learn much about this is a talk about the inside of outside of the government, because the social affairs is handling about the after the mitigations. Yeah, so that is why how to be the strangest about the AI for a greener economy for the consumption, because there are many people come and stay in Bali do not report. So the AI is that strangings about the data. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Laksmi. Any thoughts from
I can give it a go. I think there's, if I understand, I think there's 2 questions there. One is, how do you use AI for the green economy in Bali? And the second was really around disability and the people that are here. How do you help with that? So maybe I'll start with the second one first, because I think the digital economy, and we were talking about that at lunch as well. There's obviously many perspectives to how the world has changed around us. And I always remind, I was at a breakfast a couple of days ago, and I was talking to a group of people, and I was saying, when I was growing up, we took knowledge and we took pride when your parents bought you like the Britannica Encyclopedia, and you read those books, right? Then I became part of the internet economy, And so, most of us have seen that transition. Now we're in AI. I think the whole digital economy has impacted the ability for people to connect socially, and obviously has created more awareness around mental health as well. But I think one of the areas that AI can certainly help is, if done properly, is to help with mental health issues, and to actually help people have the right level of support and interactions, because not everyone has access to friends and family and support structure, and I think AI can help with that. But obviously it's a very dangerous thing unless done properly. I think on the green economy piece, if I understood your question right, I think it's really about how do you use AI to not just help make decisions, but actually action the decisions that will create more sort of control, checks and balances and consumption of water. How do you manage waste, energy, all of those things? So
There's one more here. Yes. Okay. There's one more over there as well, actually. But we have to practice so many systems.
yes, it's in red.
Hello. Yeah, thanks for taking my question. My name is Nicholas Noche. I'm a co-founder of a brand new crypto exchange, and we're focusing on India and Indonesia as our flagship markets. And one of the things that really struck me in the talk here is, number one, AI is key, right? And so in building a crypto exchange, we can't build a crypto exchange with AI. You really need to go old school, looking at the code of how to build an engine that is reliable, enterprise, etc. But when we're talking about the issue of financial inclusion, I think this is where what we've built our exchange to be targeted towards beginning traders, intermediate traders, where I think the AI is really a key to unlock the power of the internet, of the technology that we built, and allow users to intuitively use the technology for their own benefit. So I really would like your feedback on, as far as financial inclusion and launching a crypto exchange and a financial platform in Indonesia. What are the kind of steps that we can take to really drive the innovation of AI intuitiveness to the customer?
Thank you.
Okay. I think the challenge is, I'm speaking for all of us. I'm not sure if any of us are experts in blockchain and crypto, but at least I'm not. Oh, well, then Peter should answer that one. I think just financial inclusion outside of crypto, I think AI can play a massive role in onboarding, the customer experience, the way people interface, making it more accessible to people. So I think there's many, many applications there. But from a crypto standpoint, I think I'll have to defer to Peter.
Well, I've got some experience here. I'm not sure we can give an answer that's definitive. But on the crypto side of things, honestly, I think this is moving much more in the direction of something that is going to be mediated almost entirely by AI agents. This is not going to be, if I was launching a new crypto exchange, make it agent first. Don't make it human first. Forget about human traders. Or if there's a human trader, they're going to be trading through an AI agent. So, I would, but one place where I think crypto has some potential there is just the liquidity and the ease with which one can transact, across borders, and in terms of financial inclusion for people who may be unbanked. There's a lot of work that needs and that stuff is actually easy. You've been able to do that, from the beginning. But then the challenge is getting those people on board and making those capabilities actually, work for them. And that goes beyond just the machinery of the exchange, which is vital, but that's where the rubber meets the road. That's a job for all the entrepreneurs out there.
Yeah, maybe adding on a little bit to Peter. Right, so just last month in AWS we have a ASEAN Leadership Forum, right? And we think a lot about how do we use AI, right? So I think the question was, when you ask the question, how can AI help with the financial inclusion, I don't think there's a clear answer, right? But if you think the other way around, right, you as a financial service provider, how do you actually help educate the mass market, right? How you actually help people to be included financially, be it crypto or anything else. The question, you change it into how you build an AI system to actually replicate yourself and help yourself educate people, right? So instead of probably you talking to like 100 people, 200 people, right? Suddenly you have an AI system that can help you answer the questions, right? So hopefully that may be one way of looking at it.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point. I'm thinking back now to Arthur Hayes. I'm sure you know Arthur Hayes, right? Founder of BitMEX. And when he started out, he was. You can go back and find some of these old YouTube videos. He was reaching out to people. He was holding little conversational forums in the basements of community centers, in Hong Kong, talking to like 5 people with his slide presentation, and that's what it took, to get people interested in what was then a completely alien form of technology. And that is precisely the kind of outreach and communication and perhaps education that can be done now, with AI avatars and things like that can now be, very rapidly deployed, very highly attuned to whoever your target market segment is and the message and so forth. Yeah.
Can I just have one part? Sorry. Now, as I think more about the financial inclusion element, right? And sorry, Nicholas, going sort of beyond your question. I think there was talk today at lunch as well about having a unified ID system in Indonesia as well. I think it really comes. So first of all, to have financial inclusion, I think AI can be the accelerant, but I think you need to have that digital public infrastructure that will enable that. And I think there are markets where that has worked very well. I was reading a stat yesterday. I think in Singapore, digital payments now are like it's 94% through the various formats, but it comes down to the actual digital public infrastructure and the digital rails you put. But I think where AI will help is through the education piece, the risk assessment, because obviously as you start to go into rural parts, you'll have customers who won't really have the requisite KYC pieces, but how do you use AI to enable that so that they can be onboarded as well without actually having those very rigid formats?
All right, thank you. So maybe just one sentence, closing remarks from each of you. One sentence on AI and entrepreneur. What's the parting thought that you want to leave us with?
Well, I'm just going to say it in one word. I'm putting the plug in for DNAM, Digital Non-Aligned Movement.
All right. Thank you, Amit. Peter?
Yeah, digital non-aligned movement. Let's stay with that theme. Let's make it happen. April 18th, there it is. I didn't see any dissenting votes, so let's make it happen. Yeah.
Out of Bali. Awesome. Donald.
I think this is a really exciting time, right? So digital non-alignment and all that thing. And I think if there's one word, I'll say, just jump in. This is the time. Right?
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much to our panelists and to our audience for engaging and staying with it. I believe we have tokens of appreciation. I leave it back to my colleague Dian.
Yeah, please remain on stage because we will give you a token of appreciation, and I will have to invite Ibu Sherin Nursalim to give the token to our panelists. Thank you so much, and please give a big round of applause for our panelist and moderator.
Thank you, Peter.
We are also inspired by the conversation today.
Yes.